Bastille. A standalone short story. I am a broken man. At least that is what the shrinks say. They say I'm too broken to continue in the Centauri Special Forces. But if one of the powerful nation-states pays for your training, they own you. So that's how I became stuck as a tester, a guinea pig, for Centauri scientists. On the bright side, they gave me a place to stay, even if it is a single-room apartment that you couldn't swing a proverbial cat in. Centauri also provides a seemingly unlimited serial mold into multicolored letters of the alphabet. Today, the serial spells out freedom, which quickly sinks away and then spells dominated. I stare at the word knowing if I blink it will instantly rearrange itself into the usual random jumble of letters. For taunting me, I teach it a lesson by biting into another mouthful. It might look colorful, but it tastes like week-old sweaty socks. My attention is drawn away from the sentient cereal to the view-wall flashing scenes of rioters looting a nearby city. The reporter mouths something at me, but I have her grating voice muted. I am not spared the latest breaking news as scrolling text informs me that the activists are more interested in freeing the endangered dolphins than finding a way off of this dying planet. Well, the planet is fine, for now. It's the neutron star heading our way, hell-bent on turning our life-sustaining sun into a black hole, that's the problem. Of course, the rest of the solar system would also be destroyed. The skid, star kiss of death, they call it. You would think people would work together to make a plan to escape the solar system so that humanity can live on. It is 2312 after all. In the nearly 3 centuries, give or take a few years, since the skid was discovered, there has been no progress, just more wars, terrorism, and greed. The experts say it will only happen in a few hundred years, but I can't help but wonder about their margin of error. All we do know is when it does happen, it's goodbye solar system. Goodbye all known life. Goodbye crummy apartment. I munch on another spoonful of mockingly bland cereal. The retractable bench vibrates a quick buzz, alerting me to a new clothes delivery out of the bedwall. Today's parcel is a grey suit with matching grey tie and grey shoes. I sigh as I pull on the suit. I know the clothes are the largest regulation size available, but they always fit too tightly. I imagine if I flex a pectoral, I might burst the thin material. I absently discard the tie into a corner, and the floor opens beneath it. It falls away, joining the other waste products below. In these apartments, there is no room for privacy. And they are not designed to accommodate visitors. Besides, even if I had visitors, which has not happened yet, I wouldn't know how to entertain them. Maybe my spoon with its interchangeable handles would spark an interesting conversation. Or maybe my single hardcover book, Descent into the Big Blind World, which I still haven't read, would do. Or my hairbrush, which is always clogged with my short black hairs. These are the sum total of my personal belongings. The undersized shoes follow the tie as I return to another spoonful of tasteless breakfast delivered by Tablewall. Crunch. Ugh. In dull red text the viewwall silently announces, Militant Extremists Claim 23. It has been 3 years since we were caught up in a very similar riot. It was just me and Laura. The rioters appeared out of nowhere and ripped her away. I managed to fight off a few, but it was a bit like throwing rocks at a tsunami. It may look like you are winning at first, but as it washes you away you realize you never really had a chance. The memories linger in a series of unforgettable stills in the database of my mind. They force their way to the forefront of my mind, refusing to be ignored. Laura, frame by frame, slowly disappearing into a sea of limbs, each assailant obscured by a flat featureless grey mask. Masks with no eyes, nose, or mouth. The stuff of my nightmares. All my training could not save her. Laura. Later I learnt the extremists called themselves the Fishes. Troublemakers that started as an annoyance on the internet, advocating death to everyone killing the planet. They grew into fully fledged eco-terrorists. Best known for toppling a country because of the country's leader's love for specially prepared whale sushi or something equally stupid. Whatever their reasons, they took Laura from me. I give the cereal an extra frustrated bite. Ugh. Swallowing past my voice synthesizer, an artifact from those riots, does not lighten my mood. I continue eating regardless. Munch. Ping ping pong. I stare at the hollow tube on the counter as it sings its annoyingly merry ditty at a particularly unappreciative audience of one. One of the inventions they have me testing, the micromorpher, is a bulky tube of metal with a fist-sized screen. They said I must wear it constantly even though it itches. The micromorpher is a PDA that can also store small objects and return them again. In theory. And as with most experimental technology, it doesn't work reliably, if at all. It was explained to me as a pocket that is larger on the inside. Or did they say smaller on the outside? Either way, only a fraction of the objects beamed into the device ever find their way out again. I still wonder if that one tester ever did find his pinky finger. Or whether I could have my toaster back. That was an excellent toaster. I disregard the melodic noise of the micromorpher and ignore Dr. J. Carver flashing on its readout. Dr. Carver. A scientist. My keeper, handler, and overseer. Not one of the top brains. But not one of the dimmest either. I continue to ignore the machine and it thankfully shuts up. To say that it annoys me to be at their beck and call is an understatement. Being constantly poked and prodded and zapped with lights and lasers and strange beams could drive me insane. No. The doctor can wait. My shift does not start for a few hours yet. I still have a bit of time to pretend to not think about Laura. The micromorpher starts its ditty again. I fat finger the communication channel open while cursing myself for not sticking to my conviction I made not a few seconds earlier. A hologram of Carver hovers in front of my face. Much too close. Reflexively, I snap my head away, cracking it against the back wall of the apartment. I ignore the throbbing pain and glare silently at Carver's disembodied likeness glaring back at me. He looks badly beaten. It almost improves his looks. Bring the micromorpher. Immediately. Carver orders before the holographic image dissipates. I blink away the expected glowing after image, swearing at the experimental technology. This handheld hologram is like having lasers bore into my eye sockets. Which, I guess, is exactly what it is, a cruel delivery mechanism for an instant brain freeze. I blink away the residual pain and slip the micromorpher over my arm. I wonder what happened to Carver. Was it my imagination or did I see something pass through the hologram just before the transmission ended? Searching through the recently added stills in my mind, I discover the image I am looking for, an arm hovering behind Carver. An arm tattooed with a fish leaping out of water. The logo of the fishes. I stop myself, hand hovering over the panel to open the front of the apartment. If the fishes are here, I could do something. What if I fail again? Lose something important again? I punch the wall next to the door. Idiot! What do I have left to lose? With a rough touch, I activate the panel. The front door slides away, replaced by a view of the Centauri common grounds. Manicured lawns are dotted by the occasional uniformly pruned tree with the hulking white Centauri facility as the blocky centerpiece. White multi-storied apartment complexes surround the grounds in neat ranks. Beyond the apartments, the compound wall snakes, echoing the style of the facility. On the other side of the wall are the remains of abandoned suburbs that stretch to the semi-functional Novaris skyscrapers in the distance. With all the unrest these days, it is simply not safe outside secure complexes like this one. Centauri believes it is far safer to have their workers living at their place of work. Steeling myself, I step over the threshold. The walk to the central facility is not long. I nod to a pair of security guards wearing their regulation security black, with regulation automatic rifles slung over their backs, and accompanied by their regulation canine companions. The dogs seem interested in me judging from their growling, but they do not bark or leave their master's side. Animals have never liked me that much. Fair, since they make me a little uncomfortable too. The guards ignore me, as usual. They give no indication as to whether they know the facility has been infiltrated. I continue my walk. The Centauri Starburst logo, glowing in its silver-blue neon, is no less imposing than the guardhouse below it. Behind the guardhouse safety glass, Gideon waves a greeting. "Look how peaceful it all seems," Gideon announces through an intercom as I draw closer. An official-looking brass plaque on the gatehouse announces the building is United Earth Federation approved. The UEF. The self-appointed protectors of humanity. Without the political pressure from the UEF, this facility would not exist. Even though there is little to show for it, at least someone is trying to get us out of the cosmic death sentence that is the skid. But humans are strange creatures. The more someone tells them to go in one direction, the more some tend towards the exact opposite. "You are early today," Gideon notes as security lights on his gatehouse change from an amber yellow to glow deep green. "Identification and neural scan completed successfully," a monotone voice confirms. "That's strange," Gideon frowns, absently scratching his unkempt sandy hair beneath his black security cap. "It says you have been inside already today. Did you forget something?" I simply nod, not wanting to be delayed any longer, nor raise his suspicions. Gideon has always been very honest. To a fault. He can't win at card games, which has been used to make some extra credits off poor Gideon. "I know, I have been one of them. Those slave drivers must really be riding you today." Gideon laughs as he presses a button that slides the thick metal bars silently into the wall, allowing access to the facility. "Have a nice day," Gideon beams as I give an over-the-shoulder wave goodbye and lope into the antiseptic-smelling halls. The polished white hallways bathed in fluorescent lights branch in seemingly random intervals. Every so often a wall is punctuated by a similarly sterile sliding door with a square neural scanner beside it. Sometimes the wall is decorated by a lone pot plant in a vain attempt at making the place seem a bit more homely. A bit like putting lipstick on a shark. I walk past a 2-story, curved window with an unobstructed view into what has been affectionately called the observatory. Today the room's occupants, my fellow guinea pigs, are immersed in holograms depicting a sea floor. They are watching whales swim above their heads. The whales look so realistic, at least I imagine it is what they would look like. Strong, elegant creatures very unlike the smaller variety that survived today. Apparently they were also very delicious. One of the testers gets too close to a whale fin and gets knocked over, falling spread eagle on his back. The others laugh as they pull out holo pistols, weapons that can appear to be any weapon while inside the observatory. I round a corner and am out of sight when the testers begin firing their weapons. After a few more turns, I arrive at the door to what has been my torture chamber for the past 2 years. A room otherwise known as Dr. Carver's laboratory. It all seems quiet. Listening at the door, I hear scuffling inside. I am surprised I can hear anything at all given how thick the door is. It sounds like the fishes are getting themselves worked up in there. A thought nags me in the back of my mind, but I can't quite grasp it. Fear? If I acknowledge the thought, will I be able to see this through? Images of Laura drown out the thought, threatening to overwhelm me. With effort, I push them away. A swipe of my hand over the neural scanner's activator and the door slides open with a near-silent intake of air. I take a careful step inside. Carver's laboratory is the expected white room, a place I am mandated to be on the unfortunate receiving end of experiments concocted by the doctor and his fellow researchers. A trio of grey-masked thugs in loose trench coats turn to me. I know they were expecting me, but somehow they still seem surprised when I step into the room. With a shiver, I realize what I forgot, a little inconvenience called a plan. Too late. Their featureless masks, the masks that haunt my nightmares, devour my thoughts and freeze me in place. Have you noticed how much you can notice if you just stand and, well, notice? I mean, really see your surroundings. I have always been able to do that at a glance thanks to the photographs in my mind. I notice a soldering iron left unplugged on one of the tables. I notice 3 lab coats discarded haphazardly on the floor. I notice between the loose papers on a desk proudly stands a shriveled potted cactus that died months ago. I notice Carver tied to his chair with some machine cables. He doesn't look at all pleased. I notice the loose rumpled skin of a biometrics forgery lying in a pile on the ground. It takes a while to grow one of those. That, coupled with a neural map transmitter, can fool most scanning technology available today. Give them the micromorpher, you lummox, the doctor squeals, red-faced. I slowly, and deliberately, slide the micromorpher off my arm and underarm, lob it at the nearest thug. He does the smart thing and catches it. His friend does the opposite. He tries to swing at me with an unfolding baton, which snaps to its full length in mid-swing. The shock baton is a devilish stun gun in stick form that can easily be concealed and extended to its full length with a flick of the wrist. Even though it's a popular concealed weapon, it's still legal in most nations. It's mostly non-lethal. The baton crackles with electricity as I step away and casually flip my assailant over some tables. He lands heavily on the previously deceased cactus and doesn't get up. I hold up my hands in a gesture of peace with a hint of "Don't make me hurt you." The second thug, after placing the micromorpher on some nearby cabinets, rushes towards me, swinging wildly. He is a fast one. The slight twinge in his movements and bulges on his upper arms and legs scream cybernetic muscle augmentation. Crazy fast and hits like a literal truck. Best to not be stuck by. Carver shrieks, not unlike a little child, as the third thug grabs a sizable silver case marked with the serial 527-1009. Flipping through my image database, a scene from last week shows which prototype invention was placed into it, the quantum duplicator. Hardly a loss. I have never seen it actually duplicate anything. Okay, it did produce a banana once, much to my delight. But that was spontaneous and there was no sign of the other banana it was duplicating. Another failed experiment. And then the train hit me. At least it felt like a train. Maybe I just got used to being knocked around by the less than friendly experiments. Laura always said I had a thick skull. Or maybe I really do have the reflexes of a beast. Either way, I remain barely conscious as the cyborg decides I would look better as an ornament pinned to the far wall. After my brief encounter with the newly cracked wall, I slide to the ground, unable to breathe and completely numb. I can only watch as the cybernetically enhanced thug twitches over to finish me off. I'll let you in on a little secret. Cyborgs have a major weakness: electricity. And I had fallen on a device that promises to deliver copious amounts of it. In one awkward motion, I flick open the shock baton and lightly tap the cyborg's ankle. He spasms to the floor with short, sharp popping noises, cybernetics slightly smoking. He won't be getting up until those parts are replaced. My lungs inflate again with sweet sterilized laboratory air. I would not have been moving any time soon if either lung had been punctured. The numbness gives way to my ribs, letting me know they are very unhappy, have considered leaving, but have reconsidered and will stick around for now. Hey, you hairy Neanderthal! Go get that case back. Hurry! It is important. Carver shrilly yells at me, his lumpy bruises turning an interesting shade of purple. It reminds me of a bunch of dark angry grapes. I would laugh if I didn't hurt so much. Still clutching the baton, I grunt as I rock to my feet and stumble to the door. I could do with a short rest, but that last thug is getting away. The hallway to both sides of the door is empty except for a perfumed scent that lingers in the air. Strange cologne for a terrorist to be wearing. It is slightly stronger to the left. I head off down the corridor at a loping run, clutching my aching side, sniffing every so often to ensure I am on the right track. Even if he somehow gets past Gideon at the building's entrance, he still needs to cross the grounds with its dog patrols, and then there are still the 20-meter-high concrete walls. That is all assuming he escapes me first. The scent tickles the back of my mind. I have smelt it before but can't quite place it. The images in my mind don't keep the smells that well. After following the thug around a few corridors, the smell backtracks on itself. I grin. The thug did what every newcomer does when they try walking these corridors alone: they get hopelessly lost. I relax my pace, knowing he's not far now. As my reward, I catch up to the thug standing undecided at a junction. He notices me and ducks into a room sporting an oversized window, the observatory. I rush in after and stop short in the middle of a Wild West town at high noon. A tumbleweed rolls by. I have seen a town like this a few times before in the old documentaries. A town in a desert where all the weathered wooden houses look like they will fall apart without warning. Bullet holes riddle the window shutters, hitching posts, walls, and anything else made of wood. Which only excludes the dirt in the street. The sun races noticeably towards the horizon, the only visual hint that the town is less than real. Movement. The thug drops the silver case and picks up a holo pistol lying discarded on the dusty ground. The holo pistol folds into an ornate antique six-shooter. While the thug stares at his newfound weapon, I snatch another holo pistol half buried in the sand nearby. Mine folds itself into a crude grey version. We turn to each other, pistols pointed at each other. We each wait for the other to make the first move. The wind whistles through old bullet holes and another very familiar tumbleweed rolls by. We fire at the same time. The sound of metal on metal rings from behind me as the thug's shot misses. My ribs are thankful. The holo pistols might not be lethal, but they do pack a punch. And I have had quite enough punches for the day, thank you very much. My shot is far more accurate and strikes him directly on the mask, ripping it away from her face. She stands there as beautiful as I remembered her on the day I lost her. That day, her red lips held a sly smirk, but today her flushed rosy face only holds a scowl. Laura. I stand dumbfounded, jaw hanging open. The surprise gives way to elation, gives way to confusion, which in turn changes to realization as all the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. She was part of the damn fishes all along. While we were together, she had ample opportunity to fabricate a copy of my neural paths. They don't have to be perfect, just good enough to fool the scanners. Having any Centauri clearance would be pure gold to the fishes. Was she a spy all along? Was I just a toy to her? I was played, broken, and discarded. I snarl at her betrayal. The day I lost her I died, but this betrayal feels far worse. At the sight of my anger, she turns and runs, leaving the holo pistol and silver case behind. I take aim. I could easily knock her over, but I just can't make myself pull the trigger. Deflated, I lower the holo pistol and watch her disappear from the hologram town with a faint ripple. Everything she put me through, and I still can't hurt her. Not even to bring her to justice. I throw the holo pistol and baton to the ground in disgust. I pick up the silver case and flip it open. The duplicator, nearly indistinguishable from a common bathroom scale with two stylized shoe prints in its center, is surprisingly heavy and fills most of the case. As I inspect it, it beeps its compliance, a green light winking at me. I tuck the duplicator under my arm, discard the case and walk into the sunset. Clutching the cool duplicator to my ribs, I return to Carver's laboratory thinking of Laura. Even with all the security, I know she will escape if I leave her to it. She always was the clever one. Maybe I could go with her. But no, I shake my head. The time we had together ended that day during the riot. Entering the laboratory, I see that Carver has managed to untie himself and is busy securing the two unconscious thugs. I place the duplicator down none too gently. At the bump, Carver gives a start as he finally notices that I have returned from my adventure. Ah, yes. Very good. Go put the micromorpher back in its place. And do be careful, he says a bit too loudly and slowly, like he is talking to a deaf person. My hearing is quite adequate, thank you very much. I pick up the micromorpher from where it fell during the scuffle. Security will be here soon, Carver mumbles to himself. The micromorpher seems undamaged as I stow it on the indicated table. Good job, Carver whispers behind me while driving a spike through my heart. I die. Some say there is a brilliant tunnel of light beckoning the deceased into the afterlife. Or that a spirit hovers over the freshly dead body like some ghostly voyeur. I wish I could say there was a star field of lights racing past as I was drawn to the other side. But there was nothing. Not even a loading screen. I simply wasn't. And then was again. I step off the happily humming duplicator. With his back to me, Carver stands over a body. My body. He covered it with the discarded lab coats, but I can tell by its bulk and the black hair poking out the top that it is definitely me. Clearly dead due to a fatal case of long pointy object through the back. Which, I might add, Carver didn't even bother removing. Now that I look at it, it appears to be another of the fish's folding battens, but this one houses a metal spike instead of ludicrously high voltage. Definitely highly illegal. "You pitiful creature," the doctor says to my corpse, still with his back to me. "You were supposed to die by the hands of the fishes. You almost ruined my plans. But this worked out better. Much better." With a smile, I crack my knuckles. He won't surprise me again. Carver spins around at the sound. "No. How is this possible?" he cries, backing away into a wall. It is a simple task to grab the scrawny scientist and manhandle him into a chair. I don't bother with binding him, instead I meaningfully raise a large fist and hold it over his head. I have always considered myself a peaceful person despite my previous profession. I don't intend to hurt Carver, just pry some truth out of him. I shake my fist to emphasize what I want. "Explain," orders my tinny voice synthesizer. I still cringe at the noise. "Do you really think the fishes could have done this on their own?" Carver hastily spits out his words. "Sneak into one of the most secure facilities on the planet? It was my idea to assign a Centauri soldier here after an unfortunate run-in with some rioters. You just happened to be the pawn. Limbo Thade organized the girl to record your synaptic patterns. Limbo Thade had you injured enough to land you here as a tester. I admit, there may have been some miscalculations along the way. They may have gone, a bit far injuring you in that riot. Also, I should have known better than to trust them after they got in here. I don't advocate violence, but I am very tempted to change my ways and rearrange Carver's facial features a bit more than the fishes already have. I lower my fist. I'll let the officials take care of this." He takes the opening and scrambles back to the wall, watching me intently. He breaks into laughter. "But why go through all this effort, you ask?" Carver giggles. I didn't ask, but wasn't about to interrupt as Carver continues. "Centauri only rewards those that achieve something. And all my experiments were flawed and useless. I would have retired comfortably thanks to the mental trauma, the anguish, of being attacked and having my favorite tester die in front of me." He fumbles and grabs the nearby micromorpher, pointing the tube in my direction. Having worn it for the past few weeks, I know what the micromorpher is capable of. Very little. I take a single menacing step forward and, much to my embarrassment, let out a growl. "You are supposed to be dead. Why won't you die for me?" the doctor pleads and activates the micromorpher. A toaster materializes near Carver's ear, breaks the sound barrier, and crashes into the side of his head. While I am glad to see my toaster again, I think Carver is more than welcome to keep it. I barely wait for my apartment's front door, embossed with a polished chrome 24601, to slide open before I stride through. The day has been a long one, but I feel strangely excited. The only human I care about is alive. Laura. I believe she got away, at least, I would have heard something if they caught her. In my mind, I flip through the new images of her in the old western town. Besides her clear fear of me, she otherwise appears to be in good health. It is almost like she never left. As I take a seat at my still unfinished breakfast, the cheerful view-wall newscaster merrily announces the capture of a sleeper cell by the ever-vigilant Centauri security. The broadcast reminds me of my long session of questioning by the same security. All while I watch the movers pack up Carver's experiments, including the duplicator and micromorpher, and take them who knows where. I was not sad to see Carver's body carried away. After all, he did get the early retirement he wanted. Nor did the two fishes getting taken into custody particularly affect me. Watching them carry away my own body was a bit surreal, though. I was given a second chance by the hands of some crazy scientists, and that was almost taken from me by another crazed scientist. I wonder if the world would be this mad if the skid did not promise certain destruction. Is it an insanity born from the powerless inability to escape this prison planet before its inevitable demise? Or is it just that people are assholes? What am I doing with my third chance? Perhaps I should plan my escape and go pay Limbo Thade a visit. As a repayment for what he did to me. With a wave, the view wall becomes perfectly reflective. In the mirror, a slightly worse for wear, suited silverback gorilla stares back. I show my teeth and flare my nostrils, admiring my metal skullcap, the only hint of the brain transplant that made all this possible. My human body did die that day in the riot, but my mind lived on in yet another mad scientist's experiment. Given that the duplicator did not restore my original form, I wonder if I will ever have a human body again. I crunch down on a mouthful of leftover cereal. Yum, strawberry. Thank you for listening to Bastille. If you would like to hear more short stories like this one, add a like and comment. Your support is greatly appreciated.